This is one of my favorite covers of all of these. I love the illustration.
Welcome, everybody. Brett here with CraveBooks, and today I have Laura Duffy back with me again. Laura, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Brett?
I'm good, and today we're not going to be diving too far into book covers. We're going to be actually looking at a couple of different covers. Some of the authors at the Book Ninja Summit won a cover critique, as well as a couple of authors on Facebook. We reached out to you guys to see if anyone would be interested in a cover critique. And thank you everyone for volunteering your books. We may or may not have time to get to all of them today, but I really appreciate it. And just remember that all of this is constructive criticism and constructive feedback. Please do not feel like myself or Laura are attacking your cover. It is all meant to help you and improve your cover. And maybe your cover is great and perfect, and maybe your cover needs a couple of tweaks, but whatever you're thinking, this is constructive
yes,
criticism right here.
Helpful.
So before we get into it, I just wanted to have Laura give herself a little intro for you guys, a 30-second, 1-minute elevator pitch, giving her background and basically why you should listen to her, because we were actually just discussing book covers and the costs and how some cover designers charge more and some charge less, like you can find them on Fiverr. And the ones that charge more in general have a reason for why they're charging more. It's because they are professional and they've been in the industry for a long time. So I just wanted to see what Laura's background was.
Okay, so my background is book publishing. I was an art director at Random House for many years. And then I've recently been working with authors, primarily independent authors, people who are self-publishing. And so everything that I learned in the trenches at Random House, not only as a cover designer, but as an art director, I now bring to the table with me when I work with my authors. And it's, as we were talking earlier, it's not just the focusing on the cover, but it's the bigger picture and packaging, and there's a lot that goes into the thought process when you're putting a book cover together. So I think that's what definitely people appreciate about working with me. So it's very collaborative, constructive. I have only the best intentions. So I enjoy helping authors succeed. I really love what I do, and I love the people I work with. It's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's something you talked about last time. When we're looking at these covers today is we're just looking at the covers. But what Laura does is she likes to read the book and know the book to have a better idea how to position that cover and design that cover. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just, this is my book, it's a sci-fi, make me a cover.
Because I'll tell authors that I assume that you want to make some money. I assume that you want to get attention. I assume that you want to be proud of your book for whatever reason, and you want it to look professionally designed. So when you hire a professional designer, that's what you get, a professionally designed cover. There's no need nowadays for a book to look self-published. I think authors are becoming very savvy. There's a lot of information out there about the importance of the cover. There are a lot of tools out there, and there are a lot of very creative people from the world, like with similar backgrounds to myself, who are worth every penny. So
yeah, absolutely. So let's hop into this. And Laura, do you think you could put an estimate on the amount of book covers you've worked on? 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000?
I wish that I had kept count, but I would say it's in the thousands. Definitely.
And that's what you like to hear as an author.
Done my 10,000 covers, if not more. And, that's just the ones that have seen the light of day. You've got the ones that don't make it, and, so yeah. It's just incredible. Yeah.
And if anyone's looking for where to find Laura, you can find her at lauraduffidesign.com. That is her website. And these are just a couple of the covers I pulled from the website. You can see they're they're pretty good.
And I like to say, I like to point out, because I was in the trade division of Random House, that means you're working on every genre really quickly. You have to hustle. So that my experience, I don't just have one niche. There's certain covers that I don't, certain genres that I don't work in or spend too much time in. But for the most part, I can pivot to whatever genre is needed. So
Yeah, I think that's like one thing is research on that side is
yes,
you're seeing other covers, you just go out and look at all those other covers,
yeah.
and we're going to get into that right now. So this first author, she was a author at the Book Ninja Summit, Brandy Piker,
Mhm.
and she writes romance. So the first thing I just wanted to do is, it's pretty easy to tell, but one of the big things is, does your book cover fit with the series? So I
Right.
would say yes. And
Yes,
Laura?
definitely. I definitely think that when you look at any of these, you know that they're part of a family, as I call it, series.
Yeah. So that's really important just
Yeah,
because you don't want to have one stand out and the others not, and just
right.
confuse authors as
Very,
to, is this actually in the series or not?
very consistent. Yep.
So this is a billionaire romance, obviously from the cover, and uh, here is the description for all of the authors out there. If you'd like to read the description, have an idea of what this kind of billionaire romance book is about. It's hard when you haven't read it, but the description gives you a good idea. So it's a small town romance and billionaire romance genre book. Now, the author was curious about the specific elements of this cover that might be able to be enhanced to increase its appeal. Um, are there any elements of this that you think might help it stand out a little more?
Well, this one is tricky because we don't, if we just look at this cover without taking into the whole series would have to be revamped. And I think that, again, it just really, you know exactly what it is. Um, and so I would leave it, if you're, what are my thoughts on you using AI versus actual models? If you have the budget for actual models, of course, we want those folks that are involved in that to get paid. It does look very AI. I think it's a personal feeling. I know there's a lot of discussion about that. Um, he looks a little plastic compared to the other photos. They look more realistic. That would be one thing that I would want to, pay attention to in that, and consistency in that area. Um, but yeah, again, if I were to just, I would have to repackage the whole series if I were to really critique this. Like I do feel like the script might be a tiny bit hard to read, but yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, it's one, especially in a series. If you change one thing that is
yeah,
a
yeah.
big change, then
You
you
have
have
to
to
have
do
them
it
all
for
in
the whole
front of you.
series.
Yeah.
And then with AI, I think you do have to be careful because there are a lot of people that are anti AI, and if
Yeah.
they think there's a hint of AI in it, they
Right.
won't, even if it's a great book, they
Right.
won't read it. Now, if this cover is selling well, then I mean, obviously there's no problem with that. But
Mm.
just if you see problems for any author that's using AI, if readers get a hint that there might be AI in there, there's a lot of AI
Yeah.
sentiment going around, and it's an automatic no for some of
Right.
these people.
And
So
from a personal point of view, I'm drawn to the other covers of actual photographs of handsome men. This guy. So I don't know. Yeah, I would take that into. I would be a little wary, especially maybe in this genre. But it would be interesting to find out. I know in the science fiction world, there was an article going around. People were, which is ironic because it's the science fiction world, but they were kind of, um, concerned about AI because there are a lot of artists that are involved. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me. If you're taking work away from somebody, then that is kind of tricky. So,
yeah, yeah, AI is a tricky and sticky topic right now for
exactly.
sure. All right, now let's move on over to the next one. Now, Cassius didn't have any questions. Would you say this book cover kind of fits with the series?
I think the series needs to have more consistency, definitely. But it does fit.
It
I mean,
looks like
I
a
could see
couple
how
of
it fit. Just seeing it all together, if I saw them all together, I would know, but, um, it might, and if I knew, Kastia's books, I would, if I was if but, yeah, I think there might be something to address here to have them look a little more cohesive.
and any suggestions overall. I haven't seen, so this one looks a little bit different. I guess this one and then the one in the middle on the top have a very similar kind of with the faded purple behind the letters. What's your just overall thought on this cover?
Well, the type is very legible. Um, that camera kind of comes out of nowhere. But otherwise, just looking at this, I would say, sure, yeah, looks like what it should be. It's in the
Mhm.
right genre. So yeah,
I
and
did not even
purple,
notice that camera
purple stands
until you
out.
just said that.
So,
I'm now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, there's a camera there. I did
and
not
it's
realize
watching
that.
me.
Yeah. Are there, mentioning purple, are there any colors that you would say to stay away from, or that like tend to catch like psychologically catch readers' attention?
Well, I think, of course, bright, bold colors. It's tricky because if you have a color that everybody's using, like yellow is a pretty, that's all over the place, but it stands out still. There are trends where now we're moving back to white covers. Black covers are acceptable. Um, the thing about color that's interesting, and I have to go over this with clients, is that especially with greens or purples, even um, we'll be looking at a cover on screen for a long time, and when it's on your screen, it looks nice and vibrant, and then it'll print a lot duller than it will. So I explain that to people. So if it's on a bookshelf or something, it might not be as vibrant, or on a different device. So, but in general, bright colors are always. I think any bright color is going to attract attention.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
really just the boldness of it.
And
So,
then for any of the authors that want to pause the screen and give this a read real quick, this is the beginning of this description for this book, if you want to have a better idea. And it's kind of different than a regular description, which is interesting. Okay, on to our third one. We have Thanksgiving in Wilcombe Bay, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong,
yeah,
by Kate Derrock. So would you say that this series overall is cohesive?
definitely. It's
Hmm.
adorable. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree.
they
It's
nailed it.
for sure cohesive. For any of the authors that want to pause this right now, here is the description, and this is a women's fiction sweet romance genre.
Definitely.
Now, Kate was curious: is she in the right genre? So she said, "I didn't look. It didn't look like the other books in the categories I was acing, and it didn't appear in the holiday romance top 100 at all. Thanksgiving. So she's curious: am I in the right genre with this cover being Thanksgiving?"
Being Thanksgiving. Um, well, I mean, you could just by looking at the Jesse Gussman cover. I mean, that looks like a big, sweet romance, but it looks a little bit bigger with the type. You've got a more sophisticated piece of artwork there. I think that Kate's art is very, it's cute, it's sweet, and yeah, there's two different. So I would make a decision what audience that they want to attract. I think Jesse's. I could assume maybe she's going for an older audience, or that her audience is a little bit older than Kate's is, just by the kind of art that she's using.
And would you say, like, does there need to be any more elements of of Thanksgiving in this, or what's your thought on that? Like in the cover, should there be something that represents Thanksgiving more, or do you think this is?
Well, I think you'd have to decide what you want. I'm assuming they're in like like on vacation or something. So I think that is I think that's a good idea to represent the beach. I mean, that seems to me like appealing, like, okay, you're getting away, you're going somewhere beautiful versus, I don't know, a turkey,
True.
like what?
A vacation, yes, yes.
Cold winter night, I don't
A big turkey.
know. Right. So,
um, so her next question is, I don't like the belays for the Pencraft Award. I don't know whether to take it off altogether, leaving the cover without any badges, or to present 3 awards plus 1 short list in the same way as the 4 award belays that she did for her other book. So there's her other book with the 4 blazes.
oh wow, congratulations. What a problem to have, you know, when authors come to me and they say, I have to put this on. I'm like, oh,
So she doesn't like the style of this blaze. She's wondering, what are your thoughts on replacing it with the smaller ones or taking it off altogether?
oh, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I feel like it is a wonderful thing to celebrate when you've gotten one of these, but I think having 4 on there is a bit much. But, you know, sometimes I think that could be these awards could be addressed in the copy. I don't know. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, when I'm putting an award on a cover, I'm not thrilled with how the award itself is designed. Every once in a while, I might go in and tweak it and create my own, but you shouldn't really be doing that. I didn't say that I did that. That could be edited out.
Uh,
Nah,
I mean,
but it's a tricky problem to have.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
And
don't know
then
how
an
to help
award
you
is
there.
good. But at the same time, if you feel like it's hurting the cover, I personally, I mean,
I think it's nice to
my,
see an award on there.
yeah,
Pick one that's the most important or prestigious or your personal favorite and put it on there. Or, you know, with print on demand, you could have several different covers. You
true.
know,
Very true.
you could do that's the freedom you have when you're an independent author. You could do whatever you want.
Hmm. Yeah. She said she's not incredibly happy with the overall design and just wants your suggestions on what you might do to improve it.
Well, that's a very, very long discussion, and I'd have to read it, of course. And it would be, I think I think maybe she has a sense that her books should maybe look like the previous example, and that I would have to do a deep dive into this genre and into it and see what you know, other people are doing. But the way I work, I want somebody's book cover to look as big and sharp and professional as possible. So, and sophisticated. That's just what I do, and creative. Um, and so, if there was anything I could do to make it look interesting or different, even in the genre, I would offer that up. But that is a long discussion,
Hmm.
a long
Yeah,
path.
I think it's one thing to kind of make it stand out from the other covers. That way, it catches the eyes of the readers more that are going through and seeing all the same covers.
Right.
Um, Compared to that other genre that we looked at, this is definitely stands out because it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what's popping into my head now actually is to bring balance to it. So you've got a very sweet illustration. Maybe balance that out because the type is also sweet and you've got this lovely handwriting. Maybe balance it out by having and it's easier to fix the typography to just have a more sophisticated font for the typography. Just have something a little more elegant and clean and mature, and that might bring some balance to it and not, you know, maybe not just with the all of the typography, and that way you don't have to think about a new illustration, things like that, because I think the illustration is pretty, it's cute.
Hmm. Hmm. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So typography plays a big role in conveying the the feeling of the book, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think right now the way, I mean, not that this is terribly important, but just looking at the back and the spine and what I try to do, what I would do maybe with this artwork is I would repeat the art on the back, take out the couple, maybe, you know, make it just prepare it so that you could read the copy over it so that it definitely felt like more of a piece, or pick a blue from the cover or something. I think the pink kind of definitely comes out of nowhere.
Hmm.
And I think that those are telltale signs. The way a back ad is, the back of the book is designed, and the copy is laid out, that can scream self-published author. And that's where a lot of, yeah, I think that's where a lot of improvement can be made.
Hmm.
So
All right, let's keep it moving. So now these are authors from our Facebook group that volunteered their books. And before we go, quick pause. Just a reminder: this is constructive criticism, and like we mentioned, it's difficult to give you a good, comprehensive assessment without really having a good idea of the story of the book and what you're trying to convey in the book. Where we're just looking at the genre and the cover right now. So with these two, James volunteered. It's a mystery and crime Pacific Underbelly, and it is a series. I think there's two or three. I forget. Maybe there's more. But his one question was, "Am I being too simple with a mystery and crime? Is it? Can you be too simple in mystery and crime?"
well, I think, no, I think this cover really you definitely know that this is, if it fits into the genre perfectly. Um, Perhaps I would bring the book one, Cook Islands, up, make it all white so you know that it's a series, and then bring his name down. That would just be, and when I was looking, when you look at this cover small, I'm wondering if Underbelly is going to be legible. But other than that, I think it's a good cover, and less is more, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good reminder to check your thumbnails when you're doing
Yes,
this.
right, 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 right.
Check your thumbnails to make
So,
sure that you
yeah,
can see everything and it's not just a blob.
yeah. But I
All
like the fact that there's this, you see that it's this island, and yet there's some orange is a very good color for that. You could see that in the next cover too, the orange and the yellow and the dark. So,
Yeah. So that this one is a thriller and suspense, becoming Samantha Colt,
yep.
and this is the fourth book in a series. And Ken had two questions. Do you think this cover conveys the character's mysterious nature?
Definitely. I think this is a great, I love that image of her. Um, and, again, the only suggestion that I would have is to really bring up, you don't have to make it larger, but point out to people, what number book it is. If it's a series, have it clearly like book one of two of four, book, or that it's a series. And that way you'll generate more interest. Oh, I need to read the other three, or, and also maybe take it off of her face. But I think definitely this cover looks like a thriller, looks like a suspenseful novel. So yeah,
And then do you
good job.
think you can see some vulnerability in her face?
Um, she looks badass to me. I don't think she looks vulnerable.
She does look pretty badass. I'm not sure,
I
Ken,
like
if that's
that
what
image
you're
a lot. It's pretty.
going for more vulnerable image, but she does look badass for
Yeah,
sure.
we don't need vulnerable. We need badass.
All right, let's pop on over to the psychological thriller, the sequel. So one of the
Actually,
questions is,
this one.
do you think this conveys the character's instability?
Yes, this is one of my favorite covers of all of these. I love the illustration. However it was created, I think it looks great. I think the type is interesting. Um, yeah, just the guy sitting there with the dog and all those books. Like, you definitely are like, what's going on? Definitely looks like a psychological thriller. Good job.
What's your thought on like the font size of the author's name? Because I've heard some people say make it small, make the font of the title bigger, and some people say, hey, like show off your work, make sure your name is legible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think some people, I don't know if it's a matter of shyness in the independent author world, but what I always, how we approached it at Random House, if you make an author's name bigger, it just makes people think they should know who that person is. Um, and as to whether an author's name goes on the top or the bottom, we did them all over the place. But I think that, um, maybe I would move it a little bit so it wasn't covered up. You always worried, oh, can you see? It looks like Jerry Jameson to me. Um, but yeah, no, I think why not? But I do. It's interesting because people say, oh, my name doesn't need to be that big. But yes, it does. You're the author. Like, a lot of what I do is come on, coaching, cheerleading. Let's do, be
Yeah.
proud.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
it's
And
too
yeah,
small, it starts to get weird.
like you said, it's like, oh, maybe I should know who this is.
Right.
Right.
So it's all
Authority.
psychological. So
The next one is the Kincaid Saga, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't really find the genre, and on Amazon there was no genre listed, so I had it as a saga drama. But what are your thoughts on this? What is it conveying without even knowing the genre?
without looking at the little tagline, yeah, it looks like a romance. Yeah, saga drama looks good to me. And this is where that tagline, which is really small, could be brought up, should be brought up. And
Hmm.
again, we've got that book one. So maybe that tagline could be bigger and under the title. So you see the title, the tagline, this couple, they look like there's something going on between them. And colors are great. Um, yeah, that's it. That's all I would do.
Yeah, the author, he did mention
Oh,
that.
there's somebody behind there. Oh, look at that. All of a sudden I'm seeing there's a man in the back, there's a shovel or a knife or
I think this
something.
takes in place in Australia, so that might be
Oh,
like an Aboriginal
all right.
ethnicity guy.
You
But
know, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but the author said he felt like people that were reading it were getting the wrong vibes from the cover and were thinking something else. Like when I look at this cover, I think kind of like some sort of romance in a mining town, like small town romance, basically. But is that like kind of what you're thinking?
Um, well, it's interesting because it's, one of the things I know people want to do is they want to, I call it a kitchen sink cover where they want to tell the whole story on a cover. Um, I think that I would definitely, there is a lot going on. I don't think you would need all of that, all of those elements that are in the background. And I'm just going to make the assumption that I don't know where it would be, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on in the background. Um, but yeah, maybe it would call for some kind of simplification.
Mhm.
But I think that you're always going to see a book. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time you're going to see a book, no matter where it is. There's going to be a description next to it.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
some,
especially
unless,
on Amazon.
yeah, unless there's a bookstore,
Yeah,
and then you turn it over and you read the back.
yeah, exactly.
So you have that little extra help. But
Yeah, yeah, true,
no,
very true.
I would
All right,
simplify that.
let's hop on over to here. So we have it's a Christian nonfiction. I don't know if it's Christian or just it's a Christian woman in this story, but it's a nonfiction and it's a book about domestic violence and how to recognize the signals, what to do and how to find help. So the question the author had was, does this cover display the issue, which I think might be kind of hard because it's a
Right.
very complicated topic to display that issue.
Yeah, I think that first of all of the you cannot read any of the copy. Sorry to be harsh, but that's the thing. That's of actual that the image is very beautiful. Um, but it does not have, to me, it doesn't resonate with domestic violence. I think it looks joyous almost. I know that, you know, I don't know. It's also kind of hard to see what's going on. And if this were a thumbnail, I would imagine you really couldn't tell what was going on. So I would definitely revisit this cover, taking a look at what's in this category, what other people have done. It's a sensitive topic. I wouldn't, yeah, I would
Well,
really
here's a question: how
more thought.
creative do you get compared when you're comparing a nonfiction cover versus a fiction cover? Like, there's a lot more creativity that probably goes into a fiction cover, whereas nonfiction, it's real, true. So there's probably a little bit less of a fiction aspect to it, obviously. So
Well,
Like, just
yeah, it's a fine line because I want to always be as creative as I can, no matter what I'm working on, and so you have to balance it out with making it clearly defining what where it belongs and what space, and yet looking different. So you don't want to use the same images that have been used over and over again. Sometimes you just can't avoid it, or I try to use something perhaps that's been used before, but maybe in a different way. Um, you pay attention to colors, and I think that even when you're working on a cover that about, say, domestic violence or something, you do want it to be somewhat aspirational. Usually when I'm working on these covers, an author will say, "Well, I don't want to look too depressing. I want it to look, what I'm offering is help, or at the end of my story, I was healed, or so so there's those things to take into consideration. And then there's also, I think there would be more of a descriptive copy on a book like this, like
yeah.
what are we, is this how to help and heal? Is this somebody's journey? So there needs to be a lot more on the cover to give people that inspiration to pick it up and to read it.
All right, let's pop on over to the next one. And I think this is a redo of his original cover. I saw another one on Amazon. This one, to me, looks better than the one that he has right now on Amazon. So his question is, do you think this is representing science fiction genre?
Yeah, I think he's nailed it. I think that this looks really great. I think it's actually pretty beautiful, and he's chosen just the right fonts, and everything is just look how he's got that book one up there. He must have heard me, and
Yeah, that's his question. Is it
so
clear enough? Do you think that's
it could, look, you could make it bigger if you wanted to, bolder a little bit, just a little bit. It's not the most important thing. It's an important piece of information, but you definitely want to make sure you have hierarchy when you're working with all this copy. And in terms of should he include faces in the all other four books, that's something to explore. But I would, if I were him, I would, when I work on series, I'll tell an author I need them all in front of me all at once, so that I don't put myself into a position where, second, about, like, oh, I wish I had done that. So, and I can't because the first one looks like this. And so you just want them all together. And yeah, try to find characters now for the rest of them. And, but it's definitely science fiction, and yeah,
I like it just because I feel like it's
beautiful.
simple, but there's a lot going on in there too.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, that
good job.
simplicity with this hints of different things going on in there. All right. Um, so the next one we have is a travel book, and I think I kind of framed my question about like creativity in fiction versus nonfiction. I think the better way to frame it is, um, should you include a more realistic photo or picture in nonfiction books, or does it really depend?
No, I've used illustrations. I think there's a trend now to use illustrations, anything beautiful, anything eye-catching. Um, a lot of times people don't want to use their own photos or use a photograph. I mean, it conveys a different feel, especially if you're following trends in a good way. You then it feels contemporary. It feels
Mhm.
contemporary. But I think that this book is this travel book. You obviously know that it's a travel book, but I would definitely turn that travels with Terry. That's so buried there in the sand, and make that a logo. And that doesn't have to be, that could just be a little band with travels with Terry up in the corner. I'm picturing them all together. So you just see travels with Terry, and he can kind of, he or she can, just um, brand it that way.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah, this cover seems very simplistic, which can be good. What are your
beautiful
thoughts on
picture
that?
doesn't, yeah, beautiful picture, travel. You've nailed it. It's easy peasy. So
And then we have A Higher Betrayal by Jack Mayer. Meyer, I think. Sorry if I
yes.
pronounced her name wrong. Um, Political thriller with kind of techno thriller in there as well, which I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting from the drone in the background. What
The
are your
spider drone. Oh my God. I think this cover looks great. I would just pump up a wayward parrot,
Patriot?
patriot, patriot, parrot thriller. It's a parrot thriller, patriot thriller. I would just put that in a nice, simple, bold sans serif font, white, and so you could see that clear. It's totally getting lost there. But other than that, I think it looks good. You've got some all the elements you need there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think it's okay. I think it's good.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time today, and we can, of course, do this again and down the road. And this has been so awesome because I learned so much about covers, and hopefully, it helps some of our authors out
Yeah.
there. And all of this constructive criticism. Remember, this is not attacking any of your covers. This is just meant to help you,
Help
and
you, right? Yeah.
that's the whole point, is to improve as much as possible as you put
Yes.
out your next books.
Yeah.
Laura, where can people find you?
On lauraduffydesign.com, and they can reach out to me there, or they can email me at laura@lauraduffydesign.com. Yeah, I'm here. So, and I'm happy. I offer complimentary consultations, so I'm happy to jump on the phone with anybody. I love talking to people. I love answering questions. I understand people are shopping around, but I love to help people out with the broader understanding of how to publish their books, and the interiors and the uploading and the copy and all of these things that go into it. Give people a better understanding, because 99% of the authors who come to me have never done this before, and I appreciate that, and they appreciate how I'm happy to hold their hands, happy to help them get through it. It's a journey, and it can be a fun one, and I want to make it really fun for people, and I don't want anybody to have a bad experience. So
So you do more than just book cover design.
yes, I'm offering interiors and uploading to KDP and Ingram, and helping them with the keywords and the metadata and all that stuff that will hopefully get them pushed up there on Amazon, stuff like that. So
Yes,
get their books
the
out
goal.
there. And I do a lot of, as I said, a lot of cheerleading, a lot of motivating.
And it's
And I
it's
love
needed.
reading these
It's
stories.
needed.
Yeah. So I'm always like, let's do this, people. So it's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for
Sure,
coming
thank
on and
you. I,
helping us out.
I appreciate this opportunity. This was a lot of fun.